Hey, I hope everybody's having a great day. We are going to look at one more video. This will be on the video for the quiz, which will be on Friday. Talk about congruent triangles, getting in the habit of labeling correct parts. But it should be a pretty quick video. I'm going to have you guys try a couple questions at the end. But again, hopefully it's pretty straightforward. So, start off with definition of congruent triangles. Two triangles are congruent if and only if their corresponding parts are congruent. Corresponding parts are sides and angles. Okay, those are the two parts that make up a triangle. You can also go the other way, and we'll get into this more when we get into proofs, but we know that corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Because if the triangles are congruent, then their corresponding parts have to be. If you notice, I underlined all 5 letters of those capital all those main words there, corresponding parts, congruent, triangles, congruent. We also call that CPCTC. It's kind of a little tongue twister when you try and say it, but it's a lot better than saying corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent every single time, or when we get to proofs, having to write that out every single time. So CPCTC is the shortcut there. We have a couple examples here, just identifying again what's what here. If triangle ABC is congruent to DEF, then there are a bunch of things that we can say are true. So we know that just by order, A and D are congruent. We know that B and angle E are congruent, and then same thing, C and F are congruent. That will always be the case. Whatever way it's written is the way that they line up. So we know that, let's see, we can mark this on here. A and D are congruent, E and B, and then C and F. Same exact idea with segments. So DE is going to line up with AB, and that's the way the picture looks too. So we have AB and DE. We have EF and BC line up both in the word ABC and DEF and also the picture. And finally we have, so that's BC and EF, and then finally we have FD is congruent to AC. So again, if you look at this up here, you should see what lines up. A is congruent to D. BC is congruent to EF. They all match up together. That's not coincidence. That will happen every single time. If we look at one of these examples, okay, naming congruent triangles based on corresponding parts. So we want to decide what triangles are congruent. So we know one triangle is congruent to another. We just have to figure out what goes where. So we have one triangle on the left here, SON, and we have another triangle on the right here, WOE. Now you need to make sure that you're lining things up in the right spots. Now what you see here is that O is being used for both triangles because that's an angle on both triangles here. So what I would do is put O somewhere and then work around it. So let's say we make O first. Okay. So triangle O something something. We get to find out the next two parts. At least you have part of it done. Now, if I'm looking at just the left triangle, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's my next one I'm going to go to. You could go to N or S. It doesn't matter. You can go to S here and say, okay, I'm going to make S my next one on there. Now, if you look at the marking on angle S, you see one arc. Where do you see one arc on the right? Well, that's at E. So you would make the next one E, and then finally you would make it N and W. That's one way you could write it. You could also have started something like this and gone triangle and made O the second letter here, and then gone S is first here, and again that matches up with E there, and then you would go N and W. That also works. Okay, so there's lots of ways you can write this, but you have to make sure you're matching everything up. I would like you guys to try B for tomorrow. Look at a couple more examples here. Draw and label the corresponding parts. Dog is congruent to cat. Okay, so draw. Let's get our triangle DOG, and again, you can label it in any way that you want to, but you have to be sure to go in the same order. So if I go DOG, I have to start in the bottom left and go CAT, so they all match up. Now I can mark everything, so I know that these two are congruent, I know these two are congruent, and I know these two angles are congruent. I also know sides are congruent, because again, they're all matching up together. So we've drawn it, we've labeled it, good to go. I'm going to do one more example with you guys, and I'm going to let you guys try 5, and we'll save 6 for tomorrow. So, example 4. Given triangle ABC is congruent to DEF, you have AB, DE, and EF, and you want to find BC. I would draw a picture. Don't try and do this problem without drawing a picture. Give yourself something easy to look at. So we have two triangles. Again, I can't even draw a triangle, but it's good enough. A, B, C, I'll go this time, so we got to go D, E, F. Make sure you go in the exact same order so they all match up together. A goes with D, B goes with E, C goes with F. Label everything. So 2x plus 5. DE is 7x minus 30. EF is 27 minus 2x. We want to know what BC is. Okay? Now what we said before is that these things are congruent. These two triangles are congruent. So all their angles and all their sides, their corresponding angles and their corresponding sides are congruent. So right now we know that this side and this side correspond. They're in the same location, so that therefore they have to be congruent. 2x plus 5 equals 7x minus 30 is your setup. If you want to pause it right now and work through, see what we get, that'd be a good idea. Subtract 2x from both sides. 5 equals 5x minus 30. Add 30 to both sides. And divide by 5. So x is 7. Again, you wouldn't want to put that in multiple choice answer. You want to find BC. So what we're going to go ahead and do here, BC lines up with EF. So if we know EF, BC is the same. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in right here. 27 minus 2 times 7. So 27 minus 14 equals 13. If EF is 13, BC is 13, so that would be our final answer. So again, kind of just working around it, making sure you have things lined up and setting up an equation that's true based on what we talked about in those couple definitions. I want you guys to try 5. Come to class with 5 done for tomorrow. Okay, draw a picture. You're going to have to factor in this one, but factoring went very well yesterday, so hopefully continues on this. And then we will do example 6 tomorrow. Okay, we'll take care of that one tomorrow at the beginning of class like we've been doing for a couple of those warm-ups in your groups. See you guys.